What's up, everyone? Welcome to this week's edition of Chok Talk. I'm your host, Vik Chokshi, brought to you by Sports Intel. Today, I am super excited about my guest. We got Bernie Fratto from Fox Sports Radio. He's got an amazing story. So before we jump into breaking down some games, I'm going to open up the floor to him to tell everyone how he kind of got into the gambling space. How's it going, Bernie?
Hey, Vic, thanks so much for having me today. And yes, obviously, we're in a world now, we always sort of have been, but it's come out from behind the shadows and become very mainstream, and that you really can't have a conversation about a sporting event without talking about the point spread, right? So
Yep.
I have sort of an interesting story on how I became fascinated with betting, sports betting. And for the record, I started sports betting for real at September 7th, 1986. The first bet I ever made was I liked the Alabama Crimson Tide -7 over Ohio State, and they covered, and I made money. I said, oh, this is going to be easy. But little did I know, it wasn't so easy. Matter of fact, later in the year, you might have remembered the Bill Buckner ball going through his legs. Well, I was on the wrong side of that. So, but let's back up, because I was living in Southern California at the time, and I was a big Rams fan, and I actually knew Vince Ferragamo, the Rams quarterback. So my beloved Rams made it to the Super Bowl 14, and they were going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers, with the great Steelers, with Terry Bradshaw and Lynn Swann and Rocky Blyer and John Stallworth and the Steel Curtain defense. And the Rams were 11.5-point underdogs. And I remember reading that in the LA Times and saying to myself, how in the world could my beloved Rams be 11.5-point underdogs? Well, the game was played at the Rose Bowl, and I actually went to the game. And so I made a friendly bet with a friend who happened to be from Pittsburgh. I said, you know what? Not only do the Rams not need 11.5, they're going to win. So,
Oh, man.
long story longer, I go to the game, and it's a great game, and the Rams are hanging with them blow by blow. And as we headed into the fourth quarter, the Rams were leading 19-17. So I was gloating a little bit. I
Feeling good? Yeah.
Sure enough, Bradshaw and the Steelers come back with 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns, and they win the game 31-19.
Oh,
And they not only win the game, they cover the 11.5-point spread.
amazing.
And 2 things came across my mind. First of all, only the real nut jobs will remember this. The reason Pittsburgh covered is because the Rams kicker, Frank Corral from UCLA, missed an extra point.
Oh,
Otherwise, but regardless, you win, you lose, no excuses. But I remember thinking to myself, how in the world could the Las Vegas odds makers be so prescient and so clairvoyant and so sharp to know that the spread should be an 11.5? How could they predict that? And that's when I became fascinated, and I learned that the betting line, is not a predictor. It's not an endorsement. It's merely an instrument to create equal action on both sides. The market will always determine, and not all bets are created equal, because the sharp money is the respected money, and if certain people bet here in Las Vegas, they can move a line. So the reality of it is, and I just heard it this morning, on the Dan Patrick show, he talked about, why would Vegas only have Green Bay as a 7-point favorite last night? Well, first of all, Green Bay had lost the last 2 times they played the 49ers as a 7.5-point underdog. So you already had a 14.5-point swing. But if that line were bad, the market would have decided, and it would have run to 7, 8, 9, 10, etc., but it didn't. So the market agreed. And Vegas is not omnipresent, and they're also not a monolith. We have 97 sports books here. So a line is merely an instrument to create equal action on both sides. That was my indoctrination into betting back in 1980. And I thought to myself, wow, this is fascinating. And that's when I became much more interested in it.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that story. And that's definitely how it works. And I have a lot of friends that are just finally getting into it, right? Because it's legalized. And I'm from Chicago. It's legalized in Illinois. They're Bear fans. They got nothing to do because of COVID. They're indoors. They're like, hey, let me throw some money on this game. So they're starting to learn about gambling as a whole. And they always, in the beginning, start off with that. Like, oh, how did they do this? The game literally ended at, -3. This is amazing. They have all these models and algorithms and robots and AI. And I try to tell them exactly what you said, but I'm glad you shared that because you've been in the game for a long time. So I'm excited for that.
And it's actually very scientific. It all starts with power ratings, and teams establish power ratings by the number of yards they gain, yards per play, passing yards, rushing yards, yards they allow on defense, third down conversions. It's incredible. It would take a phalanx of scientists and attorneys and Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders to decipher. But the long and the short of it is very, very scientific. And once you learn the system and how it's done, it enables you to look through the prism of a Las Vegas bookmaker, because I believe when I handicap a game, I use technical factors and fundamental factors. And I'll explain that as we get into this.
Great. I love it. And that segues right into my next part of this call is let's talk about some games. I've highlighted 4 games for this weekend. Would love to kind of pick your brain, see how you see things, how you've handicapped them, and we can kind of go from there. So the first game that I'll start off with is Seattle at Buffalo. So the line is now up to 3, and it's kind of settled at Seattle -3 across pretty much every book that I'm looking at. So I'll open it up to you. How did you handicap this game? Is there a side, a total, anything you like?
Seattle is 3, and I'm not a fan of laying points on the road, especially when the team has to travel across country. And when you consider Seattle's got the worst defense in the league. I said it 2 Saturdays ago on my show that this could not be sustainable. They were giving up 470 yards per game, and sure enough, Kyler Murray made them pay on Sunday night. I like the over in this game, and I actually played it Wednesday. I got it 53.5 because you've got the worst defense in the league in Seattle, but you've got the best quarterback in the league in Russell Wilson. He's on pace to throw about 58 touchdown passes. And truthfully, even though Buffalo's offense has risen up this year and Josh Allen's done a fine job, Buffalo's defense metrically is down from where it was last year and even the year before. Plus, you're going to have perfect conditions in Buffalo Sunday for November, 60 and sunny. This has points written all over it. I think it flies over the total of 53.5. However, be careful. Get it at least no higher than 55. If it climbs above 55, don't chase, don't steam, don't get the worst of the number. Try to get the better of the number. But as long as you got 55 or under, I really like the over in Seattle and Buffalo.
I like that. You bring up a really good point. I feel like Buffalo the last couple of years has been known for their defense, and this year they're 23rd overall on defense when you're looking at DVOA. And yeah, they've fallen off a big cliff. And the Chiefs game is where I actually watched that Chiefs-Bills game, and that was the first time I was like, they're getting dominated at the line of scrimmage. They're getting pushed around. This is not the same Bills D I feel like we've seen the last couple of years. So I like that. Russell Wilson has given me PTSD. Like, betting against that guy is just is trouble. I did bet against him and win that Cardinals game, but we could have lost that bet like 7 different ways as well. So I'm glad you pointed out the over, though, because that's a solid bet. Let's move to the second game. I always like to talk to my guests about my home team. You see my hat, you see my gear, the Chicago Bears. They've given me nothing but heartbreak my entire life, but I'm still a fan, and I'll always watch the games, and it's been fun kind of breaking them down from a gambling aspect. What are you liking or seeing in that game? I see the line has bounced around a little bit. It's settling at 6.5 for Tennessee right now, and just wanted to get your thoughts on that game.
It's a lot of points, and Tennessee's had issues on defense as well. My best bet 2 weeks ago is when Pittsburgh played Tennessee, and one of the things that concerned me greatly about Tennessee is they ranked 30th in the league in third down defensive conversions, meaning teams were having success at 72% against Tennessee on third downs, and that reared its ugly head that day as Pittsburgh was like 8 for 11 on third down conversions, and they won. Yep. Having said all that, I have a lot of faith in Mike Vrabel, and Chicago has really been offensively challenged. I like Nick Foles. I think he's a terrific person, but even heading into last week, he hadn't started a single game when the Bears had amassed over 300 yards of offense. And in this man's NFL, with the rule changes and receivers roaming free and such, come on, man. That's not going to get it done. It sounds like a heavy line. It's not a game I'm involved in, but gun to my head, I'd lay the wood, because I do think Tennessee is probably power rated 10 points higher than the Bears. Be that as it may, you still got to play the game. I think the Bears are deserving of the record, but things have a tendency to progress and regress to the mean, and the lack of a legit offense is really hurting the Bears. So I would like Tennessee, but I'm not involved in the game.
No, 100%. You nailed it. That's the story of my life, right? We've always been good defensively, and our offense has just been horrendous, and they're actually only better at offense than 2 teams, the Giants and the Jets. which should tell you something, just how bad this offense is in Matt Nagy's third year. And he got his guy, Nick Foles. It all starts with the offensive line, in my opinion. And this week, more than all the weeks, we're missing 4 starters. It's looking like due to injury and COVID. So the only glimmer of hope to me is Tennessee can't get to the quarterback. And we saw it a little bit last week. Clowney's hurt as well. So I don't know. We'll see. It is a lot of points. The Bears defense is legit. They are, ranked 6 and they're top 10 in pretty much every metric. But at some point, not having an offense that has the ability to string together a couple of drives catches up to you. And we've seen it the last couple of games. And so I'm not very optimistic about this weekend. But I agree with a lot of your assessments on just the Bears and this game in general. And that brings me to the next game, because I actually love a side on this game. I've heard smart guys on both sides. So looking forward to what you like. It's the Baltimore Ravens at the Indianapolis Colts. The line started at Ravens 2.5. It's down to Ravens minus 1.5 across the boards. What are you liking about this game?
For some reason, Frank Reich, who I think is, you could make a case, certainly one of the top 3 coaches in the NFL, in my opinion. I jumped on his back last week. They were only laying 2.5, then went to 3 at Detroit. As a bad line, right? And you saw what they did to the Lions. The Colts legitimately have, I believe, when you add everything up, the number 1 defense in the NFL. And teams have been able to put Lamar Jackson in a vice this year and force him to operate from the pocket. Not that he's not able to, but it's not his favorite thing to do. So you've got, I did the Detroit Lions pre- and post-game show for 10 years and had an opportunity to talk to a lot of people and defensive coordinators. Here's one reason I bring that up. Once you get near 40 starts in the NFL, they know your tendencies, they know your strengths and weaknesses. They're going to try to make you play left-handed. I cannot for the life of me understand why Indianapolis is getting points at home this week. However, be that as it may, it's, again, not a market line. It's a handicapper's line. They've done the math, and this is what's going to create equal action. A lot of smart people I know are actually on Baltimore. Now, I'm not on the game because I don't want to lay points on the road against the number 1 defense. And Indianapolis is finding their way. Plus, Baltimore has shown some chinks in the armor. Plus, they had a tough, absolute, fist fight in the phone booth last week with Pittsburgh. So then you follow that up with having to go on the road. And I would tell people that would ask my opinion, look, if you don't like a game where you can make a case for both sides, pass. The bookies want to put up a game. They want to put up action on every game, but that doesn't mean you have to play every game. You don't have to spread the board, right? There's better opportunities out there. Find games where there's value, or you might find a bad line. This isn't one of them, because truthfully, if Baltimore went in there and won, 27-20, I guess I wouldn't be surprised. If Indianapolis won outright, I certainly wouldn't be surprised. So I'm going to pass. Smart guys I know are on Baltimore. But again, I do not want to go against the number 1 defense by laying points on the road.
Yeah, I actually love the Colts in this spot because I think they win this game straight up. Their defense,
Sure.
Their defense with Darius Leonard is just amazing to watch. They remind me a lot of the Urlacher Bears, where just like they're flying around, causing havoc, getting penetration on the line of scrimmage. And I see them win this game straight up. And like you said, some of the things about Lamar we've seen last week, we saw it get exemplified in the playoffs. We saw it against the Chiefs earlier this season. And I really think the Colts defense is going to be able to slow him down. And I see them winning this game straight up. So that's one of the reasons I actually took the Colts early, right when this line came out. My book had 3. The Ravens are also dealing with some COVID issues. Their best guy, Humphrey's out. 5 out of 7 starters possibly might be out on that defense as well. So I'm glad I grabbed the points early. But yeah, you make a solid case, right? We would not be surprised either way. I just do see a little bit of value, at least at the line I got them at, and that's why I jumped on them early. And
not for nothing, I'm not a fan of teasers per se, because people typically don't play them, but there's a rule of thumb. The key numbers in football are 3, 4, 6, and 7. So if you can play a teaser and cross through those key numbers, so if you were to tease 6-point or 7-point teaser, Indianapolis at home through 3, 4, 6, and 7 and get them to 10, to Buffalo at home, you're going through 3, 4, 6, and 7 and get them to 10. That might be a really good teaser. Might want to play that for half a unit, because you're getting tremendous value there with both home dogs that are absolutely live. But that's how you play a teaser.
I like that. I like that a lot. Now, I got two more games. I know we might be running short on time, but I love
Oh,
just
go ahead,
picking your
please.
brain on these kind of things because I appreciate your knowledge. And we'll go to the NFC East. We got the Giants at the Skins, and I actually like. Not, I'm sorry, they're not the Skins anymore. The Washington Football Team. It's going to get me a while to kind of get used to that, but I actually like the Washington Football Team in this spot. The line is down to WFT -2.5, and just wanted to get your thoughts. Do you like a side? Do you like a total, or are you skipping this game?
I like the side you're on. I haven't fired on it yet, but I like what Ron Rivera is doing. I think Washington's defense is real. Their pass rush is real. The New York Giants always played just well enough to win. You got a short travel week. They've got to travel this week. Again, they're a long way away from being a legitimate NFL team. I'm talking about the New York Giants. And ironically, who would have thunk it? Mathematically, Washington is alive to win that division. And I really love what Ron Rivera is doing. I don't have a vote. He's my coach of the year. He beats cancer, takes over a moribund franchise with a quarterback. Look, I mean, he's doing it with, duct tape. What's interesting is 2 weeks ago, they ran 13,000 simulations on how many victories the NFC East champ will have. And they came up with 6.1 with the Philadelphia Eagles. But Philadelphia, they're not passing the eye test to me. They're just simply not, okay? The long and the short of it is Washington is the side here if you're going to play that game.
I like that. For all the reasons you stated, I love their D-line. Daniel Jones is a turnover machine, right? He's averaging almost close to 2 turnovers a game, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. And if we watch that game when they played earlier this season, I feel like the Washington Football Team should have won that game as well. So this is just a good spot for them, in my opinion. I like the situation with the short week for the Giants kind of coming to town, and I see them blowing them out in this game. And I agree with you. I love Ron Rivera because I'm a Bears fan, and I've been a fan of his. And just to see all the things he's accomplished this year, and a couple of weeks ago when they beat Dallas, you saw Terry McLaurin, you saw a bunch of the guys on their team. They're starting to believe that they can actually make the playoffs. And I like teams like that actually think they have a shot and are starting to play together as a unit, love their coach. They're going to, go into the dogfight for him. And I really see them competing for the NFC East, which is going to be interesting to watch by the end of this year. So let's go to the last game that I got is Sunday Night Football, the marquee matchup. We got the Saints at the Bucs. It's settled at Bucs -4. And just wanted to pick your brain on this game. The Saints beat them earlier this season. TB12 is finally starting to get into the groove. They got AB now. So it's going to be a fun game to watch. And just wanted to literally, one, do you like anything in this game? And two, more than anything, I would love a pick. Even if you're not loving anything, I would love a pick on this game.
All right. So the bottom line is one of the reasons Tampa Bay, even though they led by 8 with time running out, and Brady doesn't play defense, people thought Tampa Bay. They're waiting for Tampa Bay to fail. They're not going to. All right. Yeah. Tom Brady's throwing 20 touchdown passes and 4 interceptions. I'll lay the wood here, and I'll probably fire on this game. It's a big payback game. When they played Week 1. They'd had all of 4 weeks. They had no OTAs, no mini camp, no preseason to speak of, no preseason games. Brady hadn't gotten a chance to get his timing down. I said, you wait till they get to about week 8. But they're coming in ahead of schedule, and this is a fast, angry, physical defense. And I don't care what anybody says. Even though Drew Brees is doing it with guile, he showed me the first 3 weeks signs of a shot fighter. All right, now let me break that down so no one wants to kill me. Bottom line is this. He can still make some throws. He can still land a punch now and then. But their vertical attack is gone. Michael Thomas is not there. They rely on Alvin Kamara right, Alvin Kamara left, Alvin Kamara up the middle. Alvin Kamara, he's doing everything but selling popcorn. So the reality of it is they not only have more weapons in Tampa Bay, but this is a payback spot. This is one of those fundamental spots where I think you've got a light line here. The line really should be 6.5 or 7. I think Tampa Bay wins this by about 10.
I love it. I love their defense. That's kind of the underrated, I feel like, thing for the entire year. Everyone talks about TB12 and that offense, but their defense is legit. They're actually DVOA-wise, they're ranked number 1 in the league. And so they're legit. I love the payback spot, and you nailed it with the Saints. I mean, how did the Bears lose that game? The Saints, if any other good football team would have beaten the Saints, 9 out of 10 times last week, or 10 out of 10 times. It's just, you nailed it. They have no vertical offense. You see a lot of balls just flutter and die when he's trying to go deep without Michael Thomas. A lot of teams know they're just playing him up. And Alvin Kamara, he's an amazing talent, but the Bucs will be on the lookout for him. I don't know what the Bears were doing, but no, I love everything you said about this game. So I appreciate your knowledge and breakdown. Before we jump off, I always like to ask my guests for their favorite bet of the week. It could be a prop, a total, or side. So I'll open up the floor to you. What's your favorite pick this weekend?
My best play of the week is Arizona at home, laying 6 against Miami. They're going to draw Kyler Murray, Cliff Kingsbury. They're going to draw Miami into a shootout, and they're not built for that. Plus, Arizona's coming off a bye. They're 8-0 off a bye the last few years, which may or may not mean as much. But they're number one in yards overall. They're number one in rushing yards. And Tua wasn't asked to do much last week, and now they've got him on film. So he's going to see some looks he's not used to seeing. They're going to confuse him. He's going to have to do a lot more offensively. And Miami, this is like an arms race, and Miami is just overmatched in this game. I think Arizona rolls. You're getting a nice light line. It's under a touchdown. This is a very good football team, Arizona, and it's about time they get a little bit more respect. They're not perfect. No team is. Their defense has done better than people realize, and they've got an absolute prolific offense. And 2 weeks ago, did a lot of radio 2 weeks ago in the Sunday night game when they were also home against Seattle. And I know there's some things at the end that came down that had to go our way, but for the most part, Arizona won that game. And they put up 526 yards. And I didn't think it was sustainable that Seattle would be outgained. They started out 4-0, and they were outgained every game. That never happened in the history of the NFL once in 100 years. Then they went 5-0 and were outgained in Game 5. Ironically, they got more than 526 yards in Game 6, but they lost, and their defense, it was no longer sustainable. The Superman Russell Wilson couldn't put him on his back. And Kyler Murray has proved he could outduel, so you got a big quarterback advantage here, and Kyler Murray over Tua. They've had an extra week to prepare, and they're home, and Miami does not have the weapons to keep up. This feels like a 34-17 game to me, honestly.
I love that. That's a great
bet. My best bet. Arizona's my best bet by a mile.
I'm gonna add them to my circa million picks after talking to you, because I had them circled. They're in my top 7.
What's the line they posted, Vic, in the circa contest?
I'm excited for that. I will pull it up while we are talking.
Should be
here.
6. I'm guessing 6.
I thought I saw 5.5 yesterday.
That's even better.
Let me make sure real quick. Cardinals are 4.5.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Yeah.
Well, look, if they play this game 10 times, Arizona covers 8. That's all I can say. Could lightning strike? Could Kyler Murray, develop malaria the night before? I don't know. I've been doing this too long. I've seen everything, but I think Arizona rolls. I really do.
Thank you. I just locked him in as one of my 5 for the weekend. I'm excited. So I appreciate your time, Bernie. Before we jump off, please let our listeners know where they can find your work. I love listening to your radio show. I just got into it a little bit. I've been streaming it on Saturdays. So yeah, I would love for you to tell our listeners where they can check out your work.
Well, thank you very much. You can find me on Twitter at Bernie Fratto, and I have my own website at BernieFratto.com. But Saturday nights, 11 p.m. Pacific, 2 a.m. Eastern, I host a show on Fox Sports Radio entitled Straight Out of Vegas. You can also hear it on SiriusXM Channel 83. We're syndicated on 360 stations across the country, and you can hear it on iHeartRadio as well. It's a 1-hour show, and it's designed to take you through, right now, we're focusing heavily on the NFL, but I always lead with an opening commentary. And I'll give my perspective on Brady and Cam and Belichick this week, and even on Jim Harbaugh. So we try to make it as journalistic and as eclectic as possible. We very much handicap and break down and analyze most of the important games on the NFL slate and look for those angles and edges that over time, if you manage your bankroll and you make intelligent decisions with the information you have, you can win at this over the long term. So what we try to do is create that narrative on Saturday nights, Straight Out of Vegas, Fox Sports Radio, 11 p.m. Pacific.
Perfect. Well, thank you again, Bernie. Let's have a good weekend. Let's make some money.
Good, Vic. Come on out to Vegas. I'll buy you dinner, buddy.
Yes, sir. I will be there as soon as I could travel again. I've been itching. My wife is kind of holding me back, but I will take you up on that next year.
Good deal. Good. Look forward to meeting you. Thanks for having me on.
Take care, Bernie.